Hello, my name's ADJ, and this video is going to be about some issues with Twitch in the month of February that you may have experienced. I'm here to tell you that those issues may actually continue for some time yet this month. This video is going to explain what the issue is, why it's happening, and what that means for you as a Twitch streamer. So the first time that people would have probably been aware of this potential issue is when they ran into some issues connecting their OBS to Twitch on Monday the 7th of February. There was about an hour-long downtime period where people just couldn't connect their OBS to Twitch, and I'm sure there were other issues as well. That was probably the main kind of red flag for a lot of people, and as you can expect, a lot of people were hitting up Twitch on Twitter and so on to try and find out what was going on, and eventually OBS posted this. Twitch users, Twitch is conducting a temporary shutdown of V5 API. I'll explain in more detail in a minute what V5 API means. And they say that it will be restored at 12 PM PT. Now, this tweet would have come out in the window when we were experiencing this downtime. And I'm guessing for most people, they would have seen a message like this and just made the assumption that, well, if it's going to be back up and running in less than an hour, we'll just wait it out. We won't even explore some of the other suggestions there about downloading the RC release or the using a string key directly. They probably just didn't even bother at this point. They just thought, well, we'll wait. Now, the problem is that there's some misconceptions about what this downtime means. And the implications for what's to come for the rest of the month. For most people, they probably would have seen this and gone, well, it's temporary shutdown. Perhaps they were just doing it because they needed to restart the servers. You know, it's all well and good now. There won't be any further issues. Unfortunately, this wasn't unplanned. This was a planned shutdown. And I can show you this tweet here from Twitch devs themselves here, where they explain, as a reminder, that the phase shutdown for the legacy Twitch API v5, i.e. Kraken, I'll explain again what that is in a minute, will begin on Monday the February the 7th with a 1 hour outage. The final shutdown will be completed on February 28th, 2022. Now, this should already be starting to ring some alarm bells here. What is this? What are we talking about when we talk about v5 and Kraken and so on? So, an API is a way for tools like OBS, Wise.Bot, StreamGood, and many other tools to connect to Twitch and get information about users, about streams, about the games that are being played, perhaps the events that are fired when somebody raids or subscribes or follows, all of that sort of information, Stream Elements, Streamlabs, all of these tools will be connecting to Twitch internally to get information from Twitch about what's going on with the streams. Now, there's been a number of versions of this API. As you can see here, they already mentioned version 5, and there is a new API, version 6, which is known as Helix, the codename Helix behind the scenes. So that previous post I just showed you where they were talking about V5 being called Kraken, in this post down here, Legacy API, Kraken. This, as I say, isn't an unplanned incident. This is actually something that Twitch were aware was coming and will have been telling developers of these tools like Streamlabs and Stream Elements and OBS and all of these other tools that this change was coming, that this shutdown was going to happen. So I'm a little bit surprised in a way that OBS have left it to this point where they knew that this shutdown was going to happen at some point, and that they've effectively been trying to rush a release out the door at the last minute that will fix the upcoming issue. That's essentially what's happened here. For many other developers of other tools, they would have been a little bit more on the ball perhaps and have fixed the issue in earlier versions well in advance to ensure that there was no potential issue here with the sort of temporary shutdowns. I do have an issue with OBS recommending people upgrade to 27.2 RC. I mean, not necessarily, but for the vast majority of users, it could be an issue. So we'll take a quick look at what that means if they were to upgrade their version of OBS to a release candidate. For people that aren't familiar with software development life cycles, what tends to happen is there's a whole bunch of features that get developed. they create a beta version of the software that then gets tested and irons out any bugs, and then they fix those bugs, and eventually they release what they call a release candidate, which is kind of close to the final product that end users are going to be using. It's stable, they're happy with the features, they know that it's kind of ready to use. But generally speaking, a release candidate doesn't just stop at one. Usually there are further issues that kind of pop out of the woodwork at this point, and they kind of have to do a few more tweaks and fixes. As you can see in this particular tweet, they refer to 27.2 release candidate 1, which had come out at this point, and it's got a whole bunch of features, and that's worth a video in itself. But so they say that, well, we fixed the connectivity issues in this next version, so once we've released that, it'll be fine. You won't have any of these issues in the future. The problem with that is that if you actually look at the history of what's going on with the release candidate, as I say, not every release candidate is successful first off. It usually runs into issues. It gets a bit bumpy. The software may start to crash for people once it's being heavily used and so on. And that's kind of what's happened a little bit, because 7 hours ago, at the time of making this video, they were up to release candidate 3. So there'd obviously been some extra issues that they needed to resolve. But this release candidate then says, warning, release candidate 3 has a regression that will cause crashing when opening a properties view. Please avoid this version. So that would have meant people then had to upgrade again, because they released version 4 of the release candidate like an hour later. So it's kind of just shows you how unstable it is. And for them to be saying, well, we need, you could solve the issue if you just upgrade to this release candidate, you'll be fine. That tends to then result in other issues, and then people would have been having to troubleshoot that and so on. So not really ideal. So of the advice that they originally gave people, I would have said perhaps using the stream key is the safest at this point. If you don't know how to do that, you go into settings, you then select, instead of connecting to Twitch directly, you use your stream key. Now, you may be asking, well, why bother? This was just a temporary one-off issue. It wasn't just a temporary one-off issue, because if you actually go and look at the original tweet again from here, Twitch Dev, a reminder that the phased shutdown for the legacy Twitch API will begin on Monday, the February the 7th, with a 1-hour outage. The final shutdown will be completed on February 28th, 2022. So what do they mean final shutdown? Essentially, what's happening here is they are having given many app developers plenty of warning that they need to move over from version 5 to version 6, that they will eventually shut version 5 off completely. Now, that time has come. They have given months and months and months and months and months and months, half a year's worth of notice that you need to move over because we will shut it down. And this is fairly common really in development circles with APIs and so on. What tends to happen is that people don't really realize they have to do anything at their end. The software company will be saying, you need to change, you need to make changes, you need to make changes, we're going to shut it down, we're going to shut it down. And then nobody listens, and then eventually they will temporarily shut it off. There'll be a whole big uproar of oh, everything stopped working, and then suddenly people start getting into gear and fixing stuff. Now, obviously OBS haven't quite left it as late as that, because they have already acknowledged that this issue was coming up and they needed to fix it, and they did release it a fix for this in the next version that's coming. But I still think that they should have perhaps been implementing this fix in a much earlier release, so that it was well clear of this period where they started this shutdown. Let's dive deeper into these shutdowns, because obviously one happened already on Monday the 7th, and there's a final shutdown where it won't come back up on the 28th. What does that mean? So when they actually shut down the server, the API completely, any tools that are still using version 5 will just stop working. They won't work at all at that point unless the developers of those apps have already moved over to version 6, which, as I say, has been around for a long time. Now, not every app can be moved over to version 6 because there is what they call feature parity isn't quite there between version 5 and version 6. That means that some of the things that they used to be able to do with version 5 of the API no longer works in version 6, and there is no intention for Twitch to implement those features that will allow those apps to work with the new version. The app developers may have been waiting and hoping that Twitch would eventually just add them in anyway if they asked enough, but that's clearly not happening. So a lot of these apps that perhaps were delaying may now find themselves in a situation where their apps are just going to stop working come the 28th of February because there's no workaround for them. The things that they were relying on won't exist in the new version, and it's just going to stop. As I say, not every application has left it this late. I can show you, for example, that Wise.Bot announced that Twitch is starting to shut down their older API this month. Wise.Bot shouldn't be affected since we've already migrated to the new API, but some custom-made stuff or third-party integrations with Wise.Bot may break. So the onus here is not on Wise.Bot to fix the issue that he's talking about there with the third-party integrations. The issue is actually with the third-party developers who have implemented stuff that are like custom-made stuff for Wise.Bot. They need to fix their stuff to work with the new version. So this is quite a way down the list from Twitch. Twitch is the original people that made the changes or are making changes, but they have filtered the information about what needs to happen next to the people that need to know, and that's developers, not end users of Twitch, not the Twitch streamers themselves. Most Twitch streamers don't need to know what version of their API is being used. All they need to know is that the app that they're using with Twitch works. That's it. They don't know, they don't care that it's using version 5 or version 6. So if Twitch were to come out and announce to everyone via perhaps the Twitch notification system that they were doing this planned shutdown, it would probably confuse a lot of people, or it would cause a lot of kind of panic when perhaps there wasn't any needed. And StreamGood's another example of a service that had already planned ahead and implemented their features based on version 6 of the API rather than version 5. As I say, not just OBS affected by this, many other services would have been aware that this change was coming and they would have had to do something to support the newer version 6 of the API. Unfortunately, OBS kind of left it a little bit too late, and this is why we're getting issues with OBS connecting to Twitch. I did say at the beginning that this isn't just a temporary one-off issue, that we are going to get more. What does that mean? So let's have a look at this post here. This is the post that they made back in July last year. We look at this, July the 15th, 2021. This post talks about the legacy Twitch API version 5, the shutdown details and the timeline. And this is what we're now experiencing. We are now in that period of planned shutdowns. I'm not going to read all of this post because it's a lot of technical stuff that you don't really need to know about. But the important part here is that having given everyone a guide to how to migrate from their version 5 to version 6, this is the part that is important to you as a streamer. Version 5 shutdown timeline. These are the dates here that are likely to cause you problems. Unless the apps that you are using has already been updated to use version 6, as we already know OBS current version of it, the current production ready version of OBS doesn't support version 6, but the version to come, which is currently a release candidate, will eventually support it. We've already experienced the one on February the 7th, which was a 1 hour long shutdown. The next one is February the 9th, which is actually, at the time of me making this video, is today, due a 2 hour shutdown this time. And then again on February the 14th, Valentine's Day, a lovely Valentine's Day present of a 4 hour shutdown of their API. Note that none of this means that Twitch is down. Twitch is still there and it still works with the new API, the one that many services are already using. But if your services are relying on the old API, they won't be working currently. So February the 14th, a 4 hour shutdown. February the 16th is a 6 hour shutdown. And then February the 22nd is a 24 hour shutdown, an entire day completely shut down. So if you stream or intended to stream on any of those days, in most cases, I think that's a Monday and a Wednesday. Those are the days that you're likely to see this happening at 11, although they say PDT there, it's actually PST, it's Pacific Standard Time that they're talking about. These are planned shutdowns. They're telling you in advance, and they have been telling the developers of the apps that we use that this is when they intend to shut it down. What this is doing is it's giving all of these apps a warning that, like, you're getting close now to when we completely shut it off. All of the apps that you are relying on, all of the endpoints that you're relying on in that version 5 API, they're not going to work anymore after the 28th of February, which is the permanent shutdown. So unless those developers are actually on the ball and actually trying to resolve the problems in advance, anyone reliant on those services, they're going to find those services no longer work. So that's essentially what's happened on February the 7th, and why this could continue to be an issue throughout the month of February. Now, where OBS is concerned, as I said before, OBS gave a few different solutions here. Release candidate, just upgrade to the release candidate. That's kind of a risk in the sense that you may run into some issues with the latest release candidate, although it is close-ish to the version that is coming out soon anyway, and they claim that they will be able to get it out before the 28th. So if you want to hold on and wait, just be aware that on those dates that I've mentioned, there will be additional shutdown points where your current version of OBS will stop working. Alternatively, you can go into your settings in OBS and just set the stream key directly from your Twitch dashboard. You copy the stream key in there and paste it into OBS settings. That will work. But if you're trying to connect your Twitch account inside OBS, that's the part that won't work. So the alternative, as they say, is just wait for the service to be restored. And that's fine for the hour that we experienced on that Monday. But that's not going to be fine when the downtime is scheduled for 2 hours or 4 hours or 6 hours or 24 hours. That's coming. So waiting for the service to be restored isn't going to be the long-term solution for you as a streamer. So this is really just a word of warning that in the month of February, there will probably be more issues with Twitch, that these are planned issues, that this isn't Twitch doing anything funky, that they aren't suddenly really unstable. These are planned shutdowns that are designed for testing and making sure that people have migrated their systems over to the latest systems that Twitch want people to use. This isn't anything necessarily that you as a streamer can do to make it work. This is if you find that a particular service like OBS isn't working, or a bot that you normally use, or some sort of other website that you normally use that suddenly stops working during those times, it's those websites and those tools, the developers of those, that need to fix the issue. It's not Twitch that needs to fix it, and it's not you that can do anything to fix the problem. It's the developers of those tools that were using version 5 of the Twitch API. So I hope that clears some things up, and I will see you again in a future video. Bye for now.